Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. We have Matt, the mortgage guy, who is usually a Wednesday guest, but we're doing it Friday because my day blew up on Wednesday. So Matt, thank you very much for being flexible and doing this on Friday.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I felt different on Wednesday afternoon. I couldn't put my finger on it. And I mean, I'm being completely honest. I'm like, something's missing today. I genuinely missed our Wednesday morning conference. You don't know how much you love somebody until they're gone.
Exactly. That is awesome. And I missed it as well, but thankfully we're doing it today because yesterday we got a crazy inflation number, which we're going to save till episode 2. But what I wanted to talk to you about, and something we've talked about casually over the last year, is I have always felt that 40-year mortgage is coming to owner occupants. I believe FHA, FHFA, HUD, I believe it is going to be their answer to affordable housing. And then lo and behold, 3 weeks ago, a non-QM lender came on my channel and talked about a 40-year IO product. And I had like lots of questions like, wow, why is it coming to investors first and not owners? That surprised me. And you're like, Michael, it's been around for a while. Where have you been? So let's talk about the 40-year mortgage, what you've seen, because it's out there as a non-QM, non-agency debt. And then what, if ever, we might see it with agency debt and why it's important.
Right. Yeah. And I can speak on it where I've got clients who, are interested in that 40-year IO. I don't think the demand is high. And I kind of look at it the same way I look at ARM and other products where sure, there's certain folks who this product might be right for them. Mm-hmm. And, it's going to work for them, but, it's not a widely used product by any stretch of the imagination. Like you said, it's a non-QM product. Mm-hmm. Fannie and Freddie aren't backing it. So there's not billions being written in 40-year IOs. But it's an interesting conversation because I agree with you that if we're trying to accomplish, and by we, I mean, the powers that be in Congress and whatnot are trying to accomplish what they say they are. And Fannie and Freddie have already taken steps to say, we're going to make certain loans more expensive so we have money to spend on this whole push for, affordability or people getting into the market that, historically have had the hardest time. Mm-hmm. I think it would be a decent product if structured correctly for the first-time home buyer. And I would be a bigger proponent of that, truth be told, than telling an investor like, hey, listen, it doesn't work on a 30-year term, but maybe you can squeeze out a small amount of cash flow on a 40, see how that works out for you. It's just not, it's not advisable for most folks. And at the same time that I say that, I want to say the conversation I had earlier in the week with an investor. He said, listen, Matt, I own this duplex in an LLC with a partner of mine. We want to do a cash out refinance to 75 on this thing, 40-year IO. So we have, maximum amount of cash flow and they're going to redeploy. Like, okay, fine. Right. Super seasoned investor who does a bunch of stuff in a bunch of different areas. And that's the current goal of what they're doing is cash flow and lowest payment possible. Yeah. Okay. But really for, I think, a majority of your audience and a majority of the people I talk to who are, I'm buying my first rental or I'm buying my second rental. I don't think 40-year IO is the answer because what it does to people is it makes them look at a deal that's bad. And there's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
And say, you know what? This thing works. Well, shit, put it on 100-year. Anything will work. And so I think that's where I probably would want to warn people. And if I'm speaking and trying to be a true advisor to folks, most people must say this isn't the one for you.
No, I've had the same apprehension, right? Again, there are I did the Three Amigos yesterday and Dean's like, that's all I'll ever get. 40-year money is your IO because he's seasoned, he's structured, he's extremely disciplined. The average first-time investor doesn't have that. And really my biggest fear is you do the work, nothing works at 30, you swap it for a 40 and suddenly everything looks great. You're comparing apples and watermelons. It's just not okay.
Right. And yeah, I mean, one thing to add, me and you have said this multiple times where we're like, be careful. Let's not continue to inflate this thing that's already feels, pretty inflated. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you from my seat, Mike, I get worried when in the same day, I've got people talking to me about 40-year IOs. I've got more people interested in ARMs. And then I've got somebody else saying, oh yeah, by the way, we're doing this home equity product where you can do cash out to 90%. You just have a first, and then you have the home equity line behind it up to 90. Another one where sure, there's a few people where that makes sense, but you don't release this to the masses and just start telling people like, let's leverage to the hill and, this is good debt. So just go out and spend it. It's scary stuff.
Yeah. And again, this is what happens, right? I think we're entering a time where transactions are going to slow down. You and I have talked about refis possibly falling 75% for all the right reasons. Interest rates are up. People already got them, right? So the industry is going to create, I don't know if I want to call them more exotic or different products to try to goose activity. And again, my fear is when you have a debt structure that you can tweak and makes a bad deal look good, the deal's still bad. It's just the debt's different. And right. I think it's going to create some laziness because again, there'll be a window of time where the 40-year product is, everybody's not using it, but eventually maybe everybody does. And then I'm apprehensive, especially for homeowners.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally feel the same way where it's, it's similar to an ARM in that a really seasoned investor who's really comfortable with debt and has a strategy and a plan for it. I'm okay with it. Mom and pop, most of them shouldn't be using it.
Yeah. And again, I go back to what really caused the last crash is we had a lot of people do deals that shouldn't have gotten done. Right. That's what happened. And then, oh, by the way, the debt structure changed and a recession happened and people just decided not to pay, which led to all these foreclosures. So we are starting to do things that are like the last 2 years of blowing up the balloon. If ARMs move from like 2% to 20%, I'll be freaked out. If we do home equity lines repeatedly up to 90%, I'll start to freak out. We start to do no doc loans or no income loans again. Oh my God. We could very easily be repeating similar things the last time.
Right. Yeah. And I think to be clear, I don't see that happening when we look at like the scale of 10 in 2006 versus the scale of 2 right now with how easy it is to get a home loan. Me and Mike are talking about like, oh gosh, we might be looking at some stuff that's going to make us a 3. Exactly. We're not anywhere near a 10, but as we go towards that, we want to be like aware of like, this is the kind of stuff that could have bad long-term consequences. Let's not slide too far in that direction, which I don't necessarily think we are. Mm-hmm. But like you said, these are the things that are, high risk. A lot of, bad things can happen if all the ducks don't align and, you're just handing out money freely to folks and saying, oh yeah, it'll probably work out.
Yeah. And again, if we're into a situation where the lending structure just keeps here's the deal. If the 40-year mortgage becomes common for owner occupants, all it will do is raise prices 10 or 12%. So did it solve anything? We're a payment-based society. So yeah. And then, oh, by the way, you're not paying down equity or you're not gaining equity. Then we have a recession. You can't sell your home. Fast forward 5 years, we have another foreclosure issue. You could see it.
Right. Yeah.
Not good. So if anybody wanted to call and talk about getting a mortgage, talk about refining anything, how do you want them to reach out?
Greatmortgagebroker.com. Fill out a quick form. Let us know where you're at, how we can help. We're not always going to give you the answer you want here, but we're going to give you honest advice. And for some people, it's, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't work. I have conversations every single day where I think to myself, like, yep, I gave them the right advice. I don't think they liked it, but that was the right advice.
Yeah. And that's the key. That's why I recommend you and greatmortgagebroker.com, because you're going to ask questions. You're not going to be a salesperson that just wants to start them in the pipeline. You're going to ask some questions. And sometimes it's like, that's not a good idea. And you have no idea how important that is in today's environment. So thank you for all you do.
Yep. No problem. Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.